Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Celebrating 16 years of Young Turks.
Hello and welcome to Young Turks, India's longest running show on startups and entrepreneurship. I'm Shireen Bhan. On the show today, we put the spotlight on startups that are focusing their attention on the skilling and jobs challenge that India faces. But before we introduce you to our entrepreneurs, let's put the problem in perspective. In India, we are adding about 1 million people every month to the labour market. Roughly 50% come from poor background, more than 25% are school dropouts, and 50% lack employable skills. Now, at the same time, and this is the conundrum, there is a skill deficit of 400 million people in the country in the foreseeable future. Now, more than 93% of our workforce remains largely unorganized, and it is estimated that only 4.69% of the total workforce in India has undergone any formal skill training, as compared to more than 50% across the developed countries in the world. So let's take a look at what some startups are doing to tackle this problem. First up, the Nudge Foundation. With a mission to alleviate 1 million people out of poverty via skill training, Atul Satija's Nudge Foundation is a social enterprise that distinguishes itself with the approach it's taken. And this approach involves a Gurukul, a 90-day residential program that not only imparts blue-collar skills, but more importantly, undertakes the overall development of the individual with training in spoken English, financial literacy, and digital skills. After 2 years of running this program and with investments from the likes of the Rockefeller Foundation, Tata Trusts, this social enterprise is more than just nudging along. Let's take a look at their story.
I studied till 12th standard. My father passed away and my mother started working on the farm due to financial problems. I quit college, work on the farm and earn money.
And money echoes the voice of millions of Indian youth, young people who have fallen off the education and jobs radar simply due to their circumstance. And Atul Satija, a well-travelled corporate leader, didn't want to wait for his retirement to start making a difference to the lives of young people like money.
When I was in early 30s and working for Google, I was running the mobile business for Google for Japan and Asia. And I grew up wanting to be in the social sector as I was growing up, and I had never done anything real in the social sector at all. So I started volunteering for a Delhi-based non-profit while I was working for Google in my day job. And I think doing that for 2.5 years gave me the sense that I was kind of finding more meaning in that work than I was doing in my day job. And as career was pulling me outside of India, I made a sort of decision that I will not take that option and stay back in India, which is why I moved to Bangalore and started working for Incubatee, which was a startup back then. And those 6 months of taking a sabbatical from social sector became 5 years of super exciting work. So a couple of years back, as I was thinking about my long-term plans, it was very clear that I don't need to really wait till 40s to be in the social sector, as a thought dawned upon me. And I kind of figured out a way to sort of gather courage to not wait. And I started thinking, how can I do that in my 30s? So 2.5 years back, I kind of packed my bags and said, let me see what in the social sector do I really want to spend my time on.
What evolved from this journey was the Nudge Foundation, a social enterprise that's focused on poverty alleviation via skills training and providing a lifelong support system for the youth that pass through the Nudge's Gurukul system, aimed at empowering 18 to 25-year-olds by providing livelihood skills in areas like beautician services, BPO, retail sales, plumbing and electrician training. It's actually a 90-day residential program that is the bedrock of the Nudge's work. They call this initiative the Program in Life Management.
When it comes to the model, given it's a very crowded space, it's not a space which is devoid of action. So what, as we spend time, we realized that the buyers for all the work happening in the space just wanted focus on hard skills. So I need to give somebody a welding skill for that person to become a welder, or give somebody a driving skill for the person to become a driver. But the reality is that when you go and talk to employers on the other end, they all say, give me a person who's comfortable working hard, showing up for work, just sort of the signals around grit and attitude. And we realized that there is no focus that we are putting in actually getting the people, having their expectations being right about what working in a job in a professional environment is, and then supporting them through it. And the second thing we realized is that there is no career curve for people even if they join the first job and they stay at the minimum wages for a very, very long period of time. And there's a productivity gap there as well, even at the bottom end. And we started calling it the Learning Foundation and Economic Foundation. Learning Foundation largely caters to digital literacy, financial literacy, and learnability of a student. And Life Foundation caters to the life skills part of it, financial literacy, and things like that. So we put all of this together and said if we have to work on mindsets, behavior, and knowledge put together, we need a fully residential environment. And that's why we took up a 90 days fully residential course in an environment that we call a Gurukul. So that's how we started. And what we realized at the end of doing it for a quarter, in our first batch, is that we got 100% placement for the first batch. And that continued, right? Even in the second batch, third batch, fourth batch, all the way till now, we have now never graduated a student without a job.
But the real beauty of the program and where the team believes it becomes truly a sustainable intervention for an individual is the lifelong support that is provided to the alumni. Career path guidance and counseling on issues like health, financial planning, and upskilling by a lifeguard ensures that these young people and their families don't slip back into poverty due to health, financial, or career shocks. And a case in point is Pavitra. An orphan from a small village outside Bangalore, Pavitra's grandparents were reluctant to have her work. But last year, she mustered the courage to join one of the 9 Gurukul centers in Bangalore. Pavitra was barely able to converse in English last year, but today earns over 10,000 rupees a month teaching math to children at this Common Center.
Before, I'm not believing myself, but now I'm very confident. I'm taking ownership. I'm coming without fear work.
With its mission of alleviating 1 million young people from poverty, the Nudge has so far positively impacted 1,800 youth and have 650 more students currently undergoing the program across Bangalore. With a 100% placement record, Gurukul has over 150 employer partners, and graduates have found jobs with organizations like Starbucks, Shobha Developers, Kotak Mahindra, and Bharat Matrimony. The Gurukul was initially supported by Nandan Nilekani, and today the venture's CSR and grant partners include the Rockefeller Foundation, Emphasis, Tata Trust, and Cisco.
So one way we look at scale is that what is the critical mass that we need to get to for the program to have enough sort of visibility and role modeling for the entire skilling ecosystem to focus on quality a lot more. And I think in the next 1.5 years we'll get where not just a few organizations that have seen our work up close, but even a broader ecosystem starts to focus a lot more on soft skills and deeper work around skilling for the underprivileged. The second is we also want to figure out a way to how do we create models that are new, that are inherently more scalable than residential 100-day program that we are doing today. So a lot of our work this year will be trying out experiments which create formal pathways of skilling. So for example, UGC has already formalized Bachelors of Vocational Studies and Masters of Vocational Studies. But the question is, it requires certain innovations to happen for people to aspire for Bachelors in Vocational Studies over other programs. And that will happen when you actually prove a model through apprenticeships and on-job trainings working out for these students. I think the third is we also want to start opening up what we are doing over time with other partners to implement on their own. Loosely speaking, think franchising. So the idea for us in the next 5 to 7 years is that we should take our current 2,000 number of people as a direct impact to about 100,000 people. By direct, I mean directly ourselves and through our partners.
And another channel through which the Nudge Foundation is creating an impact is Encore, an incubator for non-profits. The idea was to pass on the learnings that the Nudge team has had in building a social enterprise to entrepreneurs keen to make a difference.
See, non-profit sector in India is unfortunately like life on Mars. There is no oxygen, water, temperature to survive, whether it's affordability of talent or it is just the perception of how the sector works, right? The style barriers of the sector. And hence what happens is that when you look at a lot of talent in the country wanting to do meaningful work, they really are not able to enter the sector and do this. If talent is sitting there saying there is no greenery in the sector for me to go survive and hence we will not go, somebody has to create that on-ramp. That's a supply side story. When you look at the demand side for social change, the people who want the society to be better, they are sitting with now money, whether it is giving pledges or CSR money. And what they are saying is that, look, the sector does not have enough life for me to water. We don't know who to give money to. So they are also looking at no talent in the sector to feed, and talent is saying that I will actually die of hunger myself if I solve for somebody else's. And they are also not going. And that's why we started the incubator, because we realized that there are enough entrepreneurs who can come in and create a very new breed of non-profits.
This program is supported by Cisco, Emphasis, Umedyar Network, Book My Show, D.E. Shaw and Dr. Reddy's Foundation. Each incubatee receives a 10 lakh rupee grant apart from active mentorship on scaling their non-profits from the former heads of Apple India, Infosys and a cohort of entrepreneurs and VCs. One such non-profit from the first cohort of Encore is Sukhi Bhava, which works with women on the issue of menstrual hygiene.
Sukhi Bhava, today we identify women living within the urban slums and rural villages to become our trainers. And these trainers go back to their communities and educate women about menstrual cycle, remove the stigma around menstruation, and also improve the access to different menstrual hygiene products like sanitary pads, reusable cloth pads, menstrual cups at a very subsidized price. So for the first 2 years of Sukhi Bhava, we were focusing on building our processes and figuring out the right model to make the maximum impact and make menstruation non-issue. Encore has largely helped us in figuring out how to move from the build phase to the multiply phase, where we as an organization were so lost in the whole bubble of figuring out how to do the work on the ground that we were not in the place to figure out how to scale up or how to figure out how to get the right access to resources, as well as figure out the strategies, which has enabled us to launch our latest initiative called the Period Fellowship Program, where the objective of the Period Fellowship Program is to educate 1 million girls in one academic year. And without being an incubator at the Encore, I don't think we would have had the confidence or we would have had built the resources or strategies to make this happen.
So far, 9 non-profits have graduated from Encore and there are 18 more being incubated currently. The target is to incubate 150 plus non-profits over the next 5 years.
As of today, there is a teacher shortage of approximately 1.2 million in the country. While at present there are 90 lakh teachers in India, it is estimated that we could double this pool in the next 10 years. The biggest challenge, though, is preparing our teachers for the job at hand and then continuously developing their skills. New teachers are prepared by TEI or Teacher Education Institute that are either government-run or private. Today, there are roughly 15,000 such institutes, but the quality of training is questionable and rampant corruption means that a lot of the ill-prepared teachers do manage to get degrees. Now, the government holds the teacher eligibility tests or TETs, and only 1 out of 7 teachers in India clears these tests. Now, assuming that we've got the degree or cleared the TET, the next big question is, what intervals do teachers undergo for upskilling? Well, under the Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, each teacher in service must be provided with 20 days in-service training, but in reality, most states are able to provide only 5. Most of these are also ad hoc and not based on any robust need analysis and therefore not really very relevant to the challenges that teachers face in the classroom. So while many edtech startups have undertaken the task of solving the learning deficit for students by providing personalized content and creating virtual hallways, 35-year-old Vinod Karate decided to view the current state of education in the country from another lens, and he shifted the focus to teachers. He co-founded the Teacher app in August of 2015 to provide professional development resources to teachers. The material on the Teacher app is mostly an interactive video format and focuses on core concepts in math, language, science and pedagogy, which is the method and practice of teaching itself. Backed by Google.org, which committed $1 million grant to the Teacher app earlier this year, the team is also part of the Facebook and NASCOM initiative Code for the Next Billion. Here's a look at the story.
So there are 90 lakh teachers in India, and we add 9 lakhs to that pool. There are a lot of reports which suggest that teachers themselves do not have concepts. So we are trying to change that scenario by directly going to them through an app and building conceptual knowledge of teachers through courses that we build in a MOOC format. Vinod, it's been a great journey for me in terms of really trying to focus on a big problem that exists in the education system.
The journey to reform the education system in India began in 2012 for Vinod Karate when he quit his investment banking job to build Stir Education's India chapter as a founding member. It was during this time when Vinod worked with almost 45,000 teachers in India and identified the missing links like untrained teachers in the workforce, the lack of conceptual understanding, and quality teacher training institutes that operate at a large scale. In 2015, he decided to turn entrepreneur and joined hands with former Google executive Medha Bankwal, former Teach for India fellows Suvidhi Khurana and Ishan Wahi, with a mission to bridge that gap via this app.
So you'll be surprised to know that there's hardly any content for teachers. And when I say teachers, I'm talking about the 90 lakh teachers who teach in government schools, who usually teach in vernacular medium. They do not follow English. So it's a big misconception that there's tons of content available in YouTube. There are a lot of efforts in education technology space per se to create content, but most often they focus on students, and they also are more test prep kind of efforts. Whereas very little content on teachers, on pedagogical aspects and subject aspects. So that way we're very unique. But what we have done is also reimagined the MOOC format completely.
During his time of working with teachers one-on-one, Vinod noticed a lot of them use smartphones. So the team chose a path that might seem the obvious thing to do in retrospect, that is to create mobile training content which will directly reach teachers. The team creates all its course content for math training, language teaching and pedagogical concerns in-house. Each course is short, interactive and as of now, all in Hindi.
किस तरह ये किताब एक अच्छा झरोका देती है उन लोगों की दिक्कतों में झांकने का.
There are huge challenges in India. Teachers cannot do long courses online. Internet doesn't reach them. So what we've done is created a sweet spot format, which is what our innovation is, where we give clear 1 hour long conceptual courses to teachers, but they're done in a very engaging format, in an audio-visual interactive format. These are not passive videos, but they take less than 50 MB data and they work offline. So teachers do not need internet or 3G or 4G continuously. So they can offline and keep it and then watch it at leisure. So these are critical innovations that we've done on the tech side, but the format itself and the fact that we're creating content for teachers makes us very unique.
Currently, the team is working with teachers in Chhattisgarh, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. Up and live for just 6 months, the teacher app has reached over 1 lakh users and has set up an ambitious goal of reaching 10 lakh teachers in the next 4 years.
इसमें एक सेक्शन है टीचर्स टूल किट. उसमें ना सिर्फ हमें ये बताया जा रहा है कि क्लास को कैसे संभालना है, हैंडल करना है, बट हम क्लास में कंटेक्स्ट की नॉलेज को इंटीग्रेट कैसे करते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल उसमें एक एग्जांपल दिया गया था कि अगर हम रोल कॉल ले रहे हैं, ठीक है, तो बच्चों से ये बुलवाने की जगह कि यस मैम, यस सर, इंस्टेड हम उनसे ये बुलवा रहे हैं कि अच्छा आप सब मुझे एक एक कंट्री का नाम बताओगे या आप सब मुझे एक एक फ्लावर का नाम बताओगे. तो ये रिवीजन में भी हेल्प कर रहा है एंड ये चीज़ बच्चों के लिए इंटरेस्टिंग भी है.
तो पर्सनली एज ए टीचर ट्रेनर मुझे ये जो रिसोर्स थे काफ़ी यूज़फुल लगे, क्योंकि हमारा एक मॉड्यूल है जिसमें हम हिंदी पेडागोजी के बारे में बता रहे हैं और मुझे जो सिलेक्शन ऑफ मटेरियल्स थे, जो रिसोर्सेज थे, मुझे काफ़ी अच्छा लगा. कुछ रिसोर्सेज ऐसे थे जो ना सिर्फ क्लासरूम से बट क्लासरूम से अलग हट के ओवरऑल टीचिंग के बारे में क्या क्या ज़रूरी किताबें हैं वो बहुत अच्छा तरीके से सिलेक्ट किया गया है. उस पर काफ़ी अच्छा डिस्कशन भी है.
So the way we visualize the solution, it could have multiple use cases. The first use case is a typical Netflix use case, right? As a teacher is there, she's binge learning on her own time, where it's a self-paced, I learn on my own kind of use case. The other use cases are more integrated. So that's what we're doing with the 3 governments, where we're almost integrating the content within the training infrastructure. For example, in Chhattisgarh this year, we're going to kind of see if teachers can do around 2 man-days of training using the app. Now that's what we're trying to work with the government and institutionalize. So our focus is very clear. The theory of change is create access to teachers at large scale and then see in terms of how that access translates into behavior change, in improvement in practice, and then that improving outcomes. So it's a long game.
The teacher app has set a milestone for themselves and they call it Vision 2022. with plans to create 1,000 hours of content for teachers in North India. Currently supported by Central Square Foundation, Google.org, the philanthropic arm of Google, and Millennium Alliance, the team plans to raise close to $4 million to meet this target.
Well, here's wishing the team at Teacher App the very best of luck for the future. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Young Turks. As always, tell us what you thought of our show. Write in to us, youngturks@nw18.com. That's our email address. You can connect with us on Facebook and Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @CNBC Young Turks. Till next time, from all of us here on the team, goodbye and many thanks for watching.
Celebrating 16 years of Young Turks.